Go ahead.
Perfect.
Go ahead. Okay. Any other questions?
All right, we're going to open the meeting. City of Trinidad Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission regular session, April 11th, 2023. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get roll call, please?
Leone,
Here.
Coker,
Here.
Armijo, Norris,
There.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Materano, and Rollo.
Here.
Do we have any public comments? Which, judging there's nobody around or on TV, I would say that's a no. We get approval of the minutes for March 14th, 2023.
I so move.
Get a second?
A second it.
Roll call?
Leone,
Yes.
Coker,
Yes.
Armijo, Norris,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Materano, and Rollo.
Yes.
So old business, any updates on wide planning efforts? Staff?
Planning efforts. I believe we're going to have another area-wide planning effort meeting on the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. If that's not it, there's a special called meeting that Michael will bring us together to enact some action, I believe, on the 24th. Yep.
25th, I believe. We're meeting. The meeting is scheduled for 25th because the area-wide planning is on the 24th.
Gotcha.
So make sure they know that meeting is on the 25th, Tuesday, 5:30.
Okay. We can hear you very well.
Okay, great.
All right, well, let's move on to the public hearing. Chapter 14 code updates.
All right. Sorry that the Zoom is not working, but as long as you guys can hear me and have the memo in front of you, I think we can get through this pretty quickly. The direction that I was given at the last meeting was very precise, and I appreciated that. To come back to you with townhome subdivision updates around the master parcel and also around conditional use expiration. So I'm going to start with the townhome. And the key on this is on your memo is number 6, which is the start of the second page, zoning compliance. That was what was added to assist with the understanding that the master parcel and the structure must meet compliance with the master parcel. So if everyone wants to take a look at that, take a moment to read through that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think that that addition to that standard really was what was needed to make sure that we hit that.
Was it emailed or
No, she pulled it up through
is it on the drive?
Yes.
Okay. Area white line.
The only thing I'm actually looking at is I probably need to take out condominium plat, and I need to probably add this zoning compliance section to the condominium plat section of the code as well. Now that I read this myself for the 5th time.
So the same thing would be in 2 different sections, or would it be worded townhome
I think we need this section. I think we need a zoning compliance section in both the condo and in the townhome plat, because it applies to both. Correct. So master parcel, that the structure within the master parcel, whether it's a condo or a townhome, has to meet setbacks, parking, height restrictions, lot coverage, etc. So I would duplicate the section, and instead of basically the exact same wording, except I would strike townhome subdivision in the condo, and I'm going to strike condo plat subdivision in this section. I think we need to add it to both. Now that I think about it, because we want this to be under each subsection of the code so that it just works better. But does this make sense, and does this address that? I think it was a very good comment to make sure that it's explicit that that the townhouse has to comply with zoning of the master parcel. Any comments?
I think it fits in. I like the idea of breaking it off the way you did in the two different sections.
Yeah, I think that has to happen. I apologize that I didn't do that for you in this memo, but I'm catching it now, and we'll make sure that happens.
I'm sure this is somewhere, and you probably have already talked about it, so I apologize if this is a question that's being asked again. But, so it says it needs to be in accordance with the underlying zone district standards. Where does it say what that zoning standard is for townhouses? Like what allows, what?
Did you hear that, Michael?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a great question. So a townhouse, it could be a duplex, it could be a multifamily unit.
Right.
So under your schedule of uses under residential, it could either fall as the zone district could either, to be allowed to do a townhouse, the zone district would have to allow duplexes or would have to allow multifamily. So any districts that are strictly single family districts would not be prohibited for townhouses. And
So it would be stated in the use table.
yeah, so it's in the schedule of uses in the zoning in Article 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, thank you. I know you said that before, once you said it, I remembered, but thank you.
No, that's a great question. Okay. Any other questions on that one? Again, I really appreciated the direction, and I think it definitely, this number 6 definitely assists with the clarity. And actually, we talked in depth about this with the council, and the council was very excited that the planning commission is considering townhomes in the work session last night. So I applaud you for spending the time to get this section to where it needs to be. All right. So now for conditional use permits. We also had a good conversation about this section with the council last night, and they also expressed their appreciation for the planning commission's concerns around ensuring that conditional uses, especially on the establishing business and continuing to operate. So in here, you'll see a couple key terms, and it's in the middle of the paragraph under number 1. Within the 1-year period or other approved period, the permit holder must begin construction or establish the land use by the conditional use, including any conditions attached to the conditional use approval. The permit holder must continue to operate the land use or business in a manner consistent with normal practices for the intended use. Failure to start construction, establish, or operate such use within 1 year or other applicable time period shall result in an automatic expiration of the conditional use permit. So that kind of middle from within the 1-year period and automatic expiration of the conditional use permit was really the meat of what I added to this. And you can see in there that the key words are either start construction or establish or operate.
No, I think that definitely needed to be in there.
Right.
we've had
I
a few
agree.
instances where,
I agree. That sounds good.
Okay. The only other thing that has come up, and it's very recent, that I want to bring and I will bring this on the 25th as the final kind of section to review. I think we're at a point where on the 25th I will provide the Planning and Zoning Commission the entire code. It's going to be, I apologize, but because it's going to be a public hearing, you're going to need the whole code. I will update the PowerPoint to point out all these different changes that we've gone through so that we can walk through them again at the public hearing. But there's one other thing that has come up that I apologize is very new, but I was in Flagler actually on Friday at a conference with Division of Housing. And what has happened is Prop 123, you might remember it was on the November ballot last year. It was approved and is a dedicated funding source for affordable housing. The city already has an affordable housing section that provides incentives for projects that do affordable housing. However, the state is, for the city to be eligible for Prop 123 funding, there needs to be a clause around expedited review. And in rural areas, expedited review is kind of, I don't want to say it's a joke, but it's kind of funny because it's not like if someone has a complete application, they're like 6 months out because there's so many land use applications like there is here, like where I'm at in Denver, right? Or if you guys have a complete application, you don't wait 3 months to allow them to present, right? So the state is requiring an expedited review policy for affordable housing to be in place and in the code to allow you to qualify for Prop 123. So I'm going to provide some language in the affordable housing section, and I'm going to make some updates to make sure we're in compliance with Prop 123. That way you don't have to hire another consultant a year from now to make you eligible for that funding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Okay. I apologize. It's kind of something that's just kind of been recently just hit my radar. And it's obviously that the state actually hasn't even established officially what they're looking for. But I think we can, I have read the text of the legislation, and I hope that I can get us to where you won't have to go through another code update to be qualified for that funding. Can't make any promises because the state can throw me a curveball in 2 months and say they needed something else, but I do think the expedited review piece is pretty easy and is not something that would be controversial because you don't see the influx of applications like larger communities do that require numerous public hearings that would delay a affordable housing applicant from getting a decision. So it's just making sure there's an explicit clause for that. Okay.
okay.
But other than that, is there any other concerns? Is there anything else, that you guys want me to be looking at ahead of the meeting on the 25th? So I will give you just a quick update. We did go through the PowerPoint like we did at the last meeting with the council last night. They were very much in favor of all the proposed amendments. They looked at several of the other key things that you looked at around the setbacks, etc. And there was no disagreement with any of your proposed changes. They appreciated the fact that you stayed in the guardrails and really just dove into the process. There are some things that they would like to look at in the future that that I think will be coming back to you, but or outside of that, some things around community design standards, around screening, and some other small things were also brought up. But those certainly can be done after this update.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have any questions.
Any other questions?
Anybody?
No.
No?
I think we're good.
Well, great. All right. Well, I will be there in person. I apologize. I was speaking this afternoon actually about the amazing work down in Trinidad at a economic development conference of 13 states, and I will tell you that there was a lot of very impressed people in the room with what your city is doing around the Housing Now program. So I got invited to speak on that and a couple other projects I was doing. So you guys are certainly leading the charge across the 13 state EDA region as well. So I applaud you for that as well.
Well, thank you.
There was a lot of comments that $2 million was able to raise $26 million in private capital. So I think there was a lot of folks asking me how they could replicate that. Alrighty. I will see everyone on the 25th, and like I said, I'll the only other matter of substance is this Prop 123, and what I think I'll do is I will pull that section out and provide a separate memo cover just on that section. So you'll probably get 2 memos from me. Would that be helpful?
Yes, please.
Okay. That's how I'll do it. I'll make sure I pull that out so you guys can specifically spend a moment on that, and then we'll go through the entirety of the rest of the code.
Michael, would you like to introduce what I'm speaking about tonight, or do you want to just let me loose?
Are you doing the HBC update?
Yes, it's the same as yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, so, if you want me to, I will. So in the course of doing the update, Article 14, so Chapter 14, Article 14 is historic preservation. And reviewing that, and also under the work that the HBC has been doing, in the current code, there is a placeholder for the HBC to create a certificate of appropriateness, which is an architectural review of either a contributing or a locally landmark building for tax credit purposes and for the protection of the historic district. What was interesting, and I think what we've discovered and Keely will show this in her map, is that once we really mapped everything, we realized that the national district and the Corazon historic district aren't the same thing. And it really took the visual before I think the staff and myself and all the work that Chris has been doing with the HBC, we could really understand and get aligned with what has to happen next. But what I think was critical for the Planning and Zoning Commission to understand is that zoning is different than the architectural review process. So the HBC will look at the design of a building. The Planning and Zoning Commission will still set forth and regulate the zoning of the property. So in theory, what should always happen is that the Planning and Zoning Commission, if there's an approval that's needed from you guys, you would go first to ensure that, for instance, a conditional use is granted prior to an architectural review by HBC. And then Keely can get into the difference between contributing, non-contributing, the actual district versus the boundaries, etc. But you're in good hands because I am not a historic preservation expert. And Keely is.
All right, thanks, Michael. Do you want to stay on, or are you gonna go?
I'm gonna go because I can't see you guys.
Okay. No worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
great night. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
That works pretty well, things considered. Okay, so what we have is very much a draft. This is something that we really put in front of y'all early on in the process, so I think there's probably going to be a couple more drafts coming your way before we formalize anything. So what I would be looking for is definitely your comment on some of this stuff and questions, because it gets a little dense with all the different definitions within historic preservation. So like Michael said, and if you look at the map, there's two boundaries. There's the red boundary, which is the HP district, which is currently called mixed use residential, no, just mixed use buildings. And it has, in the zoning, it's like attached to that name, it says core zone to Trinidad. It's really confusing because that's not the core zone to Trinidad. There's also another district on here that's a zoning district that's a residential district that's called core zone to Trinidad residential district, and also is not in the actual National Park Service legal description of it. So what our proposal is to have an overlay zoning that the kind of the HPC oversees, the Historic Preservation Commission, and then like maybe even going as far as changing the names of the zoning districts so that it's not so confusing. I don't know how the public would feel about that, but it's kind of what's already there. And so I think clarifying it could really help with the customer experience and just, you know, getting through the process in general and understanding, well, why do I have to go to HPC? I just went to zoning. I'm in this zoning.
I think it's super important.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, and as we've been discussing it, I didn't even realize core zone to Trinidad was listed in 2 zoning, so I'm like, oh, shoot.
The HP zoning classification is what throws everybody off. Because they think, oh, I'm in historic preservation zoning, but it encompasses all the other things you're talking about, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
That wording right there for that classification is what, in my mind, needs to be changed.
Definitely. I mean, some people want to participate. The historic tax credit program in this area is one of the best in the entire nation. It's like a 55% credit between federal and state and a rural bonus on top of the state. So some people are super, super interested in investing, and other people don't want anything to do with it. So they want to make sure that, yes, I can definitively say that I'm not a part of this.
Yeah, because if you look at this, HP zoning goes all the way on the other side of the river, but it's not in the district. And that is very, not misleading, because nobody's means to be misleading, but it's confusing.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. And I have actually had discussions where people are telling me, you're wrong, and I'm like, I'm not wrong.
We've had some recent discussions too where I was even confused. So this is part of that effort, illustrating it, kind of memorializing what is already going on, and then putting all the historic preservation material and ordinance in its own chapter and its own article. So chapter 14, article 14, I think I have that right. And that's going to outline the process and all the rules and regs.
And hasn't there been some spot zoning of HP zoning? Is it showing on here?
No, but there is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of mixed in with community commercial.
So how do you handle that? So that's why that name needs to change, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then to make matters even more confusing, if you just forget about the zoning for a second and you just look at the historic preservation boundary, there's actually things outside the boundary that definitely qualify or could qualify.
Okay.
So there's landmarks, there's his National Register properties, there's items that have been surveyed but are not in the boundary. So I think that we could probably, through our local government, could make some determinations about some of those things if somebody really wanted to participate. And we had an updated survey. There was 285 buildings in the survey. There's not 285 buildings in this district. So there was a lot of buildings surveyed, and there were some recommendations made. This was back in 2021. And there was actually some other districts that were proposed. So then in that case, you would have the core zone, you might have the core zone to Trinidad include some other buildings, or you might have completely different districts. And in those cases, it would be an overlay zoning, it wouldn't be like its own zoning. You know what I mean?
Would
Like,
it be
so
adopted into it?
you would, council and staff would make a petition to the National Park Service and would show, data like a survey of the buildings. There's a data sheet on each building showing the current condition of it, what kind of architectural style it is. So for every single building, we have a data sheet for 285 buildings right now.
So would it change the zoning of those locations?
No,
it's really not zoning.
It would
just
create an
change-
overlay zoning. That's kind of what I'm proposing is a local historic preservation overlay map that has a boundary, which is the district boundary, but it also includes national landmarked building, local landmark buildings, and then nationally registered buildings.
So
that
like the ones in
overlay-
Colorado, for an example, that's
Yes.
what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes, like there's a couple on Colorado that are just listed, so I just listed them because the map wasn't that big at the time.
So the blue line represents the district.
Yeah,
So who came up with the district? That's from the survey?
it's from the legal description from the National Park Service.
So the National Park Service did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We came up with it, I think, in 1975, and they certified it.
Got it.
Yeah.
But this is what we were talking about last time when we were saying this is something that is gonna have to be updated like every year, or am I thinking of the other map that we were
Think
talking?
of the zoning map.
Okay.
We are supposed to certify our maps
What do you say?
annually, I think.
Gotcha.
So, and when we have someone doing that in our GIS system right now, like any zoning changes or something like that, we're recertifying our zoning. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping that we do, and I don't expect that we would get that many per year, but if we did one year decide, hey, we're gonna make this other historic district that's a national historic district, now that's a much bigger process. I mean, you have to get, I think it's like 50% or more of the neighbors have to agree that they want to do it, be a part of the district. So it's pretty intense. And it's an overlay. So if that district joined the one overlay, instead of having multiple historic overlays, there's one overlay, it would join this boundary and definition of the overlay. So we would have to maybe recertify that overlay and tell me if he's not here, but I was gonna say if I'm using the wrong verbiage on that. But yeah, it would probably make it easier to amend the historic preservation stuff separate from the zoning stuff.
So, because there's a house up on Pinion, right? And it's,
Mhm.
I think it's on the registry, or he went through a bunch of stuff.
Is it
But I don't see-
1919 maybe? The red one?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
McCormick House is
Was that on
Oh.
here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's on there.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, so it's not in the zoning boundary, but it's contributing to our national historic fabric. So it's eligible for state tax credits, federal tax credits, all that stuff.
But the zoning boundaries have nothing to do with it, and see, that's where it gets confusing.
Right. Right.
Because the historic boundaries are different than the historic preservation zoning boundaries.
Correct.
So the zoning, whether HP is called HP zoning or it's called XYZ zoning, doesn't matter.
Right.
But needs to be changed.
It
because I
probably
think
needs to be changed.
Misleading.
Yeah, and we can call it, we propose central business district. There's another district that I just realized is in here that's called Core Zone de Trinidad Residential District. That probably needs to be changed to just residential district or something like that. Simplify it.
So where is the residential historic?
That one is it's a little area that's south of the blue and the red line, so it's not in the blue or the red. But it's called Core Zone de Trinidad.
So is it on this map?
It's not.
It's not on that map.
No, I just realized there was another one and I was like, oh no.
But again, that has nothing to do with zoning.
It is the zone, so it's a residential district, so there's, anything that the zoning, but it's called a Core Zone de Trinidad residential district, I think.
But that's not zoning.
It's not zoning.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's gotta be clarification between districts and zoning, so
Yeah.
that they're not interchanged.
Exactly.
Because that residential is probably zoned, I mean, I don't even know, because I don't know where it is on here.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the HP historic preservation zoning now does go up into residential areas, and then outside of that, it turns into like low density or whatever.
Yeah,
So the districts you're talking about are just names of historic districts, but not zoning.
it's an overlay zoning.
There's no zoning classification for that.
Oh, we don't have overlays here.
I don't think so, do we? No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So it's not an overlay as it stands,
Mhm.
And that's what you're proposing.
I would
right?
propose an overlay. I think it,
but then it changed the usage, because then you get into,
no, it would not. Mm-mm. No, it would just add a layer to that property. So like, let's say, you're looking at a property parcel and it's gonna say, the zoning, and it'll say residential district or whatever it's called. That will outline the uses and all of that stuff in that parcel. But there'll also be another zoning on top of that, which is, an overlay zoning.
but why would you have to do that? What would be the purpose?
Because it separates it from the zoning. It's just historic preservation.
But separates it how?
It separates it because, like, you might have a neighbor who's like right across the street from you, who might be in historic preservation and residential, and then you might have another neighbor.
So are you saying historic preservation is zoning, or are you saying Corazon to Trinidad historic boundaries?
It's an overlay zoning that is really for the process of historic preservation.
I think you have to justify an overlay zoning.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what purpose does the overlay?
Like, for example, like I'm thinking of another example in New Orleans. It's totally different, has nothing to do with historic preservation. There's this mixed-use residential area where I'm from, and along this one major thoroughfare within that zoning, they have an overlay zoning for medical, and it allows certain height increases and things like that. It does certain things for those buildings. That is an overlay. It's a
So-
medical overlay.
So I understand that overlay zoning is to be in addition to the
Yeah.
zoning that is already there. The first zoning is the primary zoning, which will be the primary standards that are considered, and then you'll have in addition to extra standards.
Yeah. And because it's zoning, I mean, I feel like 9 times out of 10, or like probably even more than that, you wouldn't need to review anything pertaining to that overlay zoning. You would be just reviewing standards
The
that pertain
conditional
to
use.
yeah,
Right.
because we're only listing something that pertains to historic preservation in that overlay district.
Right, and so maybe my brain's not thinking.
I feel like I'm not, I feel like
So an
I would
overlay
love to-
district I get,
Yeah.
for historic preservation. Overlay zoning, I
Mhm.
don't get, because
So-
that changes the zoning.
Maybe it is an overlay district and not an overlay zoning.
Okay, because zoning dictates what they can and can't do.
Right. So
Right?
maybe it's just an overlay district. That probably makes more sense.
In her example, the medical, if you were part of the medical overlay, then you could do certain things. You could do things that
Other
you
people
couldn't
couldn't.
do, that other people couldn't do
Right,
because
that's
you're
what
medical.
concerns, right. Because if
Right.
we're trying to, I'm just gonna say low density, I'm just gonna use that as an example. You
Yeah.
have low density zoning, but there is a house that meets historic
Preservation.
preservation guidelines, right? Or it gets designated.
Mhm.
Their zoning shouldn't change.
Their zoning would not change.
Right.
Right. But that neighbor, they are in this overlay district. I like district better. I think that's
Mhm.
probably the proper term.
Right.
So they're in that because they're in that district, they need to then go through this historic preservation process in addition to looking at the zoning.
But not the neighbor, because the neighbor's not changing their
The neighbor's
house.
not in the overlay district.
It's just this house. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And in return, that neighbor who does have to go through that extra process is eligible for historic tax credits and other incentives.
Right, right. That totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
The word
District.
zoning though, yeah. Yeah.
District, I
Yeah.
think, is the right
Yeah.
word. So I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. Maybe next time I present, I'll maybe show district versus zoning in the definitions or something like that.
I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have the same situation where a residence is qualified for the historical,
Well, no, just.
and they sit here, can they, because if their neighbors are gonna rebuild or modify their homes, they have to do something, comparison to what already exists. If this is a historical place, can they push the historical across the road onto their neighbors?
You can. You have to
Well,
go
that's an
through.
issue then.
You have to go through the process to extend the boundary, which is a national process.
Well, no, I'm talking about if the neighbors wanted to build onto their house.
Oh yeah.
And they're next to this historical house, the materials they want to use are different. They want to use modern day siding, they want to use modern day materials. This is a historical house. Can they say, no, we're in a historical district. You have to match our historical look.
Nope. If they're not in the district, they by right do not have to.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and that's why some municipalities, they want the districts expanded or something like that, and some don't.
Well, we'll leave that to the people. We just shouldn't push
Exactly.
it on them without them making that choice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
The
Exactly.
one thing that threw me, and I still don't quite understand, but like contributing and non-contributing and contributing with.
Yes.
I was like, who decides all that?
Yeah, so that's definitely some historic preservation jargon that is used. When you have a building that's on the National Register, you can also have a district that's on the National Register. So we have 17 buildings on the National Register, and then we have a district. And how they do the district and how they look at the district is they do a survey, which is an official survey, and is the building contributing or is it non-contributing?
So that
Could
was
it
done by the
become-
national people?
Mhm.
Okay, so like all of these that are here wasn't picked by people in Trinidad, it was that survey or, right?
Right.
Okay.
And the survey could have been done by someone in Trinidad, but it's certified by
Right.
the National Park Service. They go through every house and they make sure that it's contributing, non-contributing. There's probably some back and forth until they certify it.
So if somebody requests to be on that, if they're not, they can apply, right?
Yeah, so what they can do, and this is something that I can really help to look at because I understand like period of significance and what could contribute. If you did X, Y, and Z, you could be considered contributing to the historic fabric. And that's kind of what this procedure is a little bit about because it helps to clarify that. So let's use my building as an example, which is 155 East Main Street. It's the old Hallmark building on Main and Maple. So first question on my little decision tree here is the property located within the core zone du Trinidad National Historic District, or is it locally landmarked? Well, it's not locally landmarked, but it is within the district. So yes. So the next thing is we need to apply for a certificate of appropriateness with the Trinidad Planning Department. And that's a real piece of paper that says the alterations that I'm proposing to do are appropriate to the surrounding neighborhood and the core zone of Trinidad, based on, the surveys that we talked about and all that stuff.
So even if it's not contributing?
Even if it's not contributing, it needs to get a certificate of appropriateness.
Be appropriate.
Yeah,
And you think the people of Trinidad will go for that?
I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure, did you ever ask Audra if my brain was crazy? Because she said yes, didn't she? I remember something. Don't know why I remember this. I even asked my husband to think back, but I remember the reason that this isn't in the code now is there was a lot of hoopla because people that have buildings already that are not on this list don't want to be on this list,
Right.
don't want to be held to these standards.
Right.
So
Exactly.
right there, that's a deal killer for a lot of people.
I
But let her-
know.
Let her finish,
Well, what I was
because
gonna
that
s-
map is key, and let her
But
finish what.
this is important, I think. I mean, I definitely want to
It
hear it,
is,
but
but it's kind of already exists. It's already a process that probably should have been, like, we have to defend it as a municipality once we are in one of these certified districts. So, in New Orleans, I'll give you an example. There was a historic district, Amazon wanted to come in, they wanted to build this really big, it was a lot of like warehousey brick buildings. It was a kind of a different style than what we see here, but it was still a historic district. And we had a local historic district, which we don't have here. We had a state and federal. And they wanted to come in and just on a vacant piece of land, put this big glass, structure there. And the Historic Preservation Commission didn't feel that it fit the fabric of the area and that it was a detriment to and disrupted the historic fabric of that area. And so it was not approved. And
This is a big deal.
it's a big deal. So what I will say is this, and one thing I've said to the Historic Preservation Commission is that we have to go off of we have to go off of the national standards for reviewing these properties. You cannot go to a property owner and just say, I don't like that. It's got to be defended by
Yeah,
standards.
But our
But-
town is already full of stuff that doesn't match that. I mean, the dealership,
But
boom, done.
Go
I
through
could
the
go
process of non-contributing with them. If there's a property that's non-contributing on this map, we wouldn't go forward with that full standard and make their building historic, per
But
se.
if they
But
were
you-
going to build, you would have to find out that it was conforming to the standards and
Yeah.
appropriate. So this would kill the idea of ever having a parking structure or anything like that inside of this area. Because
It's-
there's no way a parking structure is gonna conform with a historical.
No,
structure.
that's not true. In fact, lots of modern buildings and lots of like uses, they conform like via like massing and size and scale. That's really the standard you should be holding, your district should be holding your new construction to. So like if you look at,
They haven't.
they haven't been reviewing.
What about if Carvana wanted to come down and build one of those great big slot machines downtown? I mean, are we gonna turn away that business because it's not a historical building?
Well, Phil Long, that's a perfect
Exactly, I
example.
mean,
All the
would we
marijuana
turn
shops.
away
Yeah, right.
Phil Long?
I think that certainly there's, economic development concerns, but I don't think so. Like, I think maybe one thing we would have looked at in terms of historic preservation is maybe we would have looked at the signage, or maybe we would have looked at the lighting, because it
But I
affects the
think we already
surrounding area.
defined that in a different part of the code. That shouldn't even be considered a historical. Isn't the lighting and signage and everything already defined
So
in?
right here, just using your building as the example, you say, okay, it's contributing or non-contributing, right?
Yes,
It's
correct.
in the district.
Mhm.
The answer is yes, it's in the district. It goes straight to apply for a certificate of appropriateness.
Exactly.
So that's the next step. It's like right from the beginning, the answer
Right.
is yes, it goes here.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're gonna have a problem.
I think that from a national standpoint, if you lose too much of your historic fabric, you're not really a historic
I
district
know,
anymore.
but I think this should go to the voters. I
Yeah.
don't think this is a decision that
Yeah.
we should.
It's already,
Because you-
it should have already been to the voters.
And I think it got shut down.
Because you're
as
kind of
it's not in
forcing
there.
people,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
kind of forcing people to do something they don't want to do.
It did get shot down.
So
Yeah.
my brain's not crazy?
Oh.
No,
Okay,
that's
'cause-
why this is not in the code.
But remember, so this, I know it went to the voters because it went through a federal process because there's a legal description. So I know that it did. But it probably did because people were trying to save the historic character of this town.
Well, I understand saving historical
That's
character,
not the part that.
but that's not what concerns us at all. What concerns us is affecting the future development, because we're trying to save. I mean, you said a vacant lot wasn't allowed to be developed because it didn't get a certificate of appropriateness.
You can have a
How can
modern
that be
building.
good?
You can have a modern building that supports your historic fabric. It's appropriate, and you can have it certified as appropriate. It's just not
So who
historic.
determines what the
Yeah.
certificate of appropriateness?
So we'll either have it done at the staff level if it's minor. If it's major, it needs to go before the HPC. If it's approved by the HPC, a certificate of appropriateness is issued, and that person doesn't have to worry that somebody's gonna come screaming down their door, I don't like your modern building, because it's already been approved as appropriate.
But you're putting that approval in the hands of people.
Right,
That are historical people.
right.
So my question is this. So if you want to be contributing and you want to go through this process, I'd say that's wonderful. I believe in historic preservation. I really do.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah,
And I feel it's important. And I understand everything you're saying.
Yeah.
I really do.
yeah.
But there's already been so many things with our community that are well past that. Too many Phil Longs,
That's right.
pot shops.
Mhm.
I could go on and on. I mean, these are just things that are coming to my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know how you implement this and force it on everybody going forward. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Fair.
So is there a way to get what you're trying to do accomplished? Because I do think it's super important. Our town is fabulous and we have some fabulous buildings that we need to save.
Yeah,
I get it. But not forcing, and let's just use my building as an example. My parents' building, I don't own it anymore, they do. But it's on Elm Street. It's listed on here in the district. It's nothing fancy. I mean, the inside's really cool and historical, the outside is not.
yeah,
Next door, it's a damn junkyard. Nobody says anything about it.
yeah.
Then we'd have to jump through hoops like this to do a new awning.
Mhm.
And somebody's going to tell us what kind of awning, what color we can
Right,
paint.
that's
Are
correct.
you following me?
Yeah, so,
I think-
and one thing that you'll see, this review standards, they're just based on like the area. And I haven't put those in front of you yet. Because I'm looking at some of our review standards and I'd like to go off more of a like national standard, and also period of significance for this. At any rate, an awning is a minor alteration, probably most likely.
Is it though? I mean, like, see who's gonna decide all that?
Yeah, like I think we can.
I mean, I'm
we
just using
can-
that as an example,
I think
right?
we can, because we have a planning department, I think we can decide some of these things at a staff level, and since I have a master's degree, I have the certain qualifications to be able to be like, oh yeah, this is something that we can decide at a staff level, or, you know what, this really needs to go before HPC and get their approval,
And like, what worries me is you're a great lady and you know your stuff, right?
Right,
But you may not be here next year.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a history.
yeah,
The people come and go.
no, absolutely,
So it could be somebody else, and then it's at somebody else's whim.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of a scary
Mhm.
thing. And I'm not saying I'm totally against this. I'm just saying there's got to be a way to not go straight to this because you're in this district, because you think you're going to have a lot of pushback.
yeah. And do you think that, and so I think one thing I'm hearing is that you think there'd be probably more pushback going straight to this and having to get this piece of paper,
Yeah.
rather than somebody who's like, oh no, I want proof that I don't have to, you know, that what I'm doing is okay.
Yeah, the color I'm painting my building is fine.
Remember the rumor over Liz painting her building pink?
Yeah.
It was kind of doing
Yeah,
that.
I don't too, and I'd have to like
Remember
look at our
also
ordinance
painted
and look
purple?
at some of the things that are in our
David H. Construction.
Uh-huh.
in our like documents for the National Historic, but like in New Orleans, we didn't govern paint color. So and in fact, our historic preservation director was colorblind anyways. That had nothing to do with it, but I always thought that was funny.
Maybe what would help to be able to say, oh, that's not so scary,
Yeah,
is if there was already standards, like, okay, we're not going to dictate paint color, we're not doing like all these minor things, like what are you dictating? You can't
What's
cover up
minor?
a mural, I get that, right?
Yeah.
Murals are significant.
And
You
then-
can't
yeah.
stucco over a brick building, or I'm just,
Well, then people would want to put maybe
Can't
Uh,
paint the classic.
better windows in, and you gotta use the windows you got. You can reframe them.
You know,
That, you shouldn't form people if they want to keep their heating bill down.
Right.
So you shouldn't have anybody saying, this is what you have to put back.
Yeah, and
This-
the way I'm kind of imagining this is kind of more of like a scale thing more than like the smaller design stuff. So maybe I need to define that a little bit
Maybe.
more, and maybe there is a way we don't go directly to that stuff. I kind of feel like I need to crunch it a little bit.
yeah,
You
because
know.
if you're just in the district, like Sammy's building, for an example, he's in the district, for some reason, his building's not colored at all on here.
That mean I
Yeah.
can do whatever I want to?
Yeah, yours
I'm
is
not contributing, I'm not this, I'm not
But you're in the
that.
district.
And we don't have really paint design standards, we have material design standards.
But that
This-
puts a financial responsibility on someone that maybe they don't want,
right?
you
Well,
know?
they shouldn't have bought a contributing building.
No,
This
No,
you
no,
can't
you
go
can't.
there because you're changing the rules. This, if this doesn't get implemented, it's still the way it is. You can't force it on someone.
This is what
You mean
bothers
if they
me.
if they have it now, they shouldn't have to live with it, their new
You can't force something on,
architectural.
I say if you want to
It's
do
a
that, you
grandfather,
better
right?
take it all the way to the voters, because you're
Exactly.
gonna have a
That's
lot of,
exactly right.
a lot
You
of
know-
pissed off people that paid for their building. They paid the mortgage, they paid the taxes.
I think what we can't do is rewrite history, but what we can do is New Orleans, where I come from, it is so stringent. It doesn't need to be that stringent to keep our character here.
This is what bothers me about this situation, is this has gone to the people already once. They
Right.
voted, they said no. They absolutely did. And now, we're going to let the people see us trying to push something through that they've already said no on without them even getting an opinion. How does this not sound like a backdoor deal?
I think I would have to
This
go-
sounds terrible to me. I don't like the look of this at all.
Well, I think I'd have to go back and look at the original application, which I think is 1975. It probably was voted on. There probably was
He's got a good
documentation.
memory.
In 2002, they passed historic preservation, and I
They
poured,
passed the zoning. Yeah.
right, and I got the signatures, and we had not election, but a rebill. And then about 10 years ago, they passed a milder version. But I was absolutely against, because there were people that you had to go through in order to get things done, and it was like, and it was so bad they could fine you and imprison you.
Yes,
Right.
That's how bad it was.
right.
And it was like, wait a minute, I'm paying the tax, the utilities, the mortgage, and everything else, and I have to go to Connie and Elena, I'm going to use her name, in order to, whether or not I can do something to my building.
See, this is
Yeah.
concerning.
This is
people
what I'm
push back
remembering. It
big
is a
time.
big
Yeah.
deal.
I
The
think the
majority
question
of
is,
people in this room have this opinion.
yeah,
This is very concerning. I need you to understand that
I
moving
understand.
forward.
Yeah, I
And
get
we're
Right,
that.
the
not in
majority of the
New Orleans,
people
like,
in
no,
this
I know.
It's a
room
totally different
there.
situation here, and I love New Orleans. I was, believe it or not, when my parents divorced, guess where I was raised? I graduated from Unionville High,
Oh.
so I'm very familiar.
Well, so I think
I'm-
what
but-
this situation that you have, maybe from what I'm hearing, is that you have a historic district. You already have
We
it.
do.
And it's probably a lot of the reason that people moved to this town. But you also have people that don't want the red tape, or maybe just, it's a confusing process for most people to have to jump
Live and
through.
let live.
Yeah.
And we
Definitely needs more
definitely don't
clarification.
want,
Right.
what I know that I can speak on behalf of the staff. It's in our conversations every single day is how, business friendly we need to be. So, I think that, I guess what I'm hearing, and correct me, but this cannot be something that provides a lot of red tape. We have to find a way forward where,
I think what was actually being said is this cannot be something that actually pushes standards on people that don't want them pushed on them.
Right,
Right.
yeah. if you want to do it, you know, like your building, for
Yeah.
example, I can so see why you would want to do it. and
But you
participate.
can't have a historic district and not defend your historic district. It's
You
not,
can't.
you're not gonna get,
Why
you're not,
not? Why
because,
can't you?
because there's certain, and I can like pull the correct verbiage and the laws behind it, but if you're going to participate in this program, which we clearly have, because there's a legal description and there's documentation that we do participate in this national program, and on the state level as well, then you can't be getting incentives and tax credits and all these things and not be defending your
But people
historic
have
character. So even if we are
They have been getting tax credits.
I know, and we're under an audit right now for this. I mean, it's a regular standard audit,
So,
but we need to make sure that there's things in place and processes in place to defend our historic fabric. It doesn't need, it doesn't need to be, I don't think that anything that anyone's mentioned right now, awnings or anything like that, I don't really see this as.
windows, doors, I mean, it can get pricey. I've been
Yeah.
involved in some
But I don't
buildings, I
think
know
doesn't
what they-
work whenever you're writing this stuff. I don't think is not going to, that's not gonna get us through.
We're gonna
Whenever
need
it hits, whenever it becomes a problem, we're not gonna be able to just go back and say, hey, but wait a minute. We were told, I don't think this would be a problem, so you just gotta go away.
So we're gonna have to adopt review standards.
We're gonna have to do something because
For
I
the
just,
voters.
I'm telling you, if
Yeah.
I have a vote in this, you're a no for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why do we have a historic preservation
Okay,
commission
well,
then? Why do
my-
they exist?
my
I mean,
opinion on
there's no
this-
reason to have them if we're not going to have standards to
My
review.
opinion on this is if we can have a splot here and a splot there and a splot here where it is and isn't a district and there's overlapping districts, then if we have an owner that doesn't want to participate in this, we should be able to whittle them out and let them, imposing rules on people that do not want it, that's a no-go. That's just a no-go.
They don't even
This is what you
enforce-
have. I can't do the spot thing. That would be me creating a bunch of districts that don't exist.
They've already done it though. So this, out of this list right here that was done by the state, this is all over the place. There's stuff on here that's outside of this.
Someone has, on those buildings, has applied to be on the National
Right.
Register.
Right. So if you don't want to be on the National Register and you happen to be within this district,
You're either contributing or you're non-contributing.
right, but on your chart, this is where it got me. 'Cause you know how I feel, I've
Yeah.
told you, I
I know,
think there
I
needs to
totally
be-
understand that step, and I think,
So you get stuck here
yeah.
and you can't go any further because now you're.
Because I think there's a way that we can have design review standards, and this is something that council wants us to, I think Michael just mentioned it, something he wants us to look into, having design review standards regardless of historic character. So, and that's something that's pretty strict, pretty normal for a municipality. So, but I get it. So, I just have to look and see. Because the first thing I said is your property located within the core zone district, and if it's not landmarked, there's no further action required by you.
No, that's not what it says.
Yeah, like if
Is this property located within the Corzon district? It's yes or no.
Yeah.
If you say no, then no further review. But if you're in yes,
yeah,
then the next step is apply for a certificate of appropriateness.
yes, and so what we could do there is like, yes, our buildings need to be reviewed in our historic district. That does need to happen. However, we can outline that so you know your rights and responsibilities about being in that district prior to even.
Mhm. So what do you do with all these people that are in this district that have owned their buildings for, some people have had them for generations.
Are they making alterations to them?
Maybe.
Then,
And what about the people that have done tons of alterations that don't match the standards? It's like, how do you?
I'm only looking at stuff that is, people are proposing alterations and need a building permit.
I
at
think
this
they'd
time.
have to have a grandfather or some way to get out of this because how I see what she's saying. Whenever they bought their buildings, they bought their buildings with the idea that they could improve them or change them however they saw fit.
And if they wanted to apply to be a designated building, apply for tax credit, they can, they certainly can.
I mean, there's a lot of standards to this. I want this to happen as well. I'm the same way. I love the history of here. I love the fact that downtown we have bullet holes where there was gunfights. I love all this.
Yeah.
What I don't love is whenever you step on someone else's freedom. Now, I understand the bigger good has to come, but is our town historic really the bigger good, or is the development of our town and the continued growth really the bigger good, and the historical development is more of the side good?
I think
See
we have
what
to
I'm
find
saying?
some common ground because I don't think the public is going to repeal this.
I think they really
They're
already
at a
have.
national level. I don't
Oh,
think
and
that-
not at a national level,
I
but
don't
this
think
is
so.
our town, and right now, as long as that thing doesn't pass at the state level, we're a local, what is it called?
Home rule.
Home rule charter, we get to
Yeah.
pick, and that's
Yeah.
why what, he just brought up,
Yeah.
it was repealed by the voters, nobody wanted it,
Yeah,
So
I'll have to look and see exactly what happened and.
yeah.
I just know this, after the voters have already spoke a couple of good times, and with the percentage of people that feel this way just in this room, I have to believe that this same percentage and the same ratio would reflect outward into our community. So we're looking at 80% of the people in this room feel a certain way about what you're discussing.
Yeah,
So I believe that we would at least come up with something similar in our community. And to have me as one of their representatives go against that, I'm just not going to be able to do that.
right.
I'm just not. My job here is to
So,
represent the community.
I guess I would ask then, if council comes before you with just architectural review standards in general, how would you approach council?
I would say that anything that the people have spoke on already, that we should, as a governing community, give back to the people to vote on. That it's not our place to take their vote away.
Okay.
That's just how I personally feel. I mean, I believe that is respecting you and giving you your right to speak, because it's just not my place to take that.
Yeah.
Could you add a decision tree saying, are you contributing, non-contributing, and if they're non-contributing, send them on their way? Or is
That's
that what
kind of what I was
that-
thinking about when I was talking to Commissioner Rolo about that, is
How many contribute?
I have to read
There's only-
a little bit more.
Right. Right? So,
I believe what you're doing is a good thing, and I believe.
so
we
if
can-
you're
Yeah, it's a way
contributing,
to
then
get
you're
something.
getting a benefit. And if you're not contributing, you're not getting a benefit. So if you're contributing and you're getting a benefit, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, if you're getting the
Well,
You're
benefit,
getting a benefit.
If
So
you
the only-
apply for the
we're talking-
benefit-
arguing, we're having this whole argument for the four guys that are in green that haven't decided. So could we not?
None of these people have decided.
No.
This was forced upon them.
It's
Nobody
not-
decided I don't know who decided the green non-contributing are, but the way
But,
this is if you're in the district,
no, I understand that. But,
Yeah.
so there's four non-contributing. What are all the red?
the red is contributing.
Contributing, so they're getting a
And then,
benefit.
no, you're not getting a benefit unless you apply for tax credits. So say you own building ABC, okay, 123 Main Street.
Okay.
And you're contributing. You might apply with the building permit to do a renovation. You're not asking the government to give you a tax credit. You're not getting any benefit except you want to fix your building. And then I might own the building next door and I'm contributing as well, but I want to get the tax credits. I would be getting a benefit if I applied for it. You don't have to apply. There's no law that says you have to apply for tax credits. But they can tell you what to do with your building, even if you're not getting the benefit of a tax credit or, correct?
Yeah, and also just another thing. So I like those comments a lot because I think there's the first question is this property located within the core zone of Trinidad National Historic District, or is it locally landmarked? No? Okay, no further action. And maybe there's part of that that's like, we're missing a step here that's saying, is it contributing? And if it's not contributing, maybe based on what the voters have said in the past, we're not gonna enforce that.
That would be great. And then what about contributing with qualifications? I didn't understand that.
So that is part of the 2021 survey. To be quite honest with you, I didn't really understand it either, but what I kind of interpreted it to mean was that if you make certain improvements to your building, then you could qualify, you could, be a contributing element to the historic fabric, and you could receive tax credits on that. So a good example, I don't want to get down the rabbit hole too much, but like our period of significance for what's contributing and what's not contributing only goes up to 1936. There's lots of buildings that are past that date. So
Before that?
like for example, Griego Insurance Building. I did a project one time where we had a 1960s, 1970s screen that was one of those cool, aluminum screens, but we wanted to restore it to a certain period of significance. So we took the screen off, we proposed to take the screen off, and then we have historic photos, so we, redid the building based on, we put new windows in, the size and the scale of those windows, they were completely, modern insulated windows. That all fit the character.
So she would be considered non-contributing with qualifications if she brought it back to the way it was.
Yeah.
If she wanted to.
If she wanted to.
Right.
And she
But-
wouldn't have to if she didn't want to.
Hang on, in y'all's conversation just a minute ago, y'all were speaking about buildings, about non-contributing, contributing, green, red, and all kinds of other stuff. The thing that I'm understanding is that we're not just speaking about buildings. Everything inside this blue border, vacant lots, buildings to be torn down, construction to be had, everything inside this border is what we're speaking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to develop a vacant lot, these rules apply.
Yeah.
As it's presented today. But I think from our,
See what
based
I'm
on our, based on our conversation, I think maybe that's not going to work.
I just don't think it is. I mean, because that's a lot of area where these people may not want to participate in the historic stuff. And out here in this vacant area, I mean, and we're going to say not only can you not build what you want to, but you have to build this way. And we're going to say that ability to say that is stronger for our city's need than just to have something developed on an empty lot.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Isn't Sonic, if I'm looking at this map, Sonic and those little hotels are on here
Yeah.
too? In that.
We just need a lot of work.
They're in your historic preservation zoning, but they're not actually in the.
In the Corazon district?
Yeah.
Okay. So the blue line
Yeah.
is where it stops?
But Phil Long, for example, is.
Yeah.
So.
And so
I
is.
mean, that affects them. If they want to expand,
Yeah.
this.
They're going to expand across the street.
Exactly. If they want to make that and they
They're
don't
gonna expand
have,
across the street.
then this
No,
could
it's
actually
what?
block that
And it's
expansion.
there.
I like these comments a lot.
And then you've got a
I think-
vacant lot.
Yeah,
And
this
then
ain't
they
gonna
have
work.
to adhere to the design standards and adopt some of those requirements. It's not impossible for them to do that.
It's not impossible, but sometimes it's out of the,
That's an
it's out of the
undue burden.
financial part of it to do that. When they wanted to do Phil Long, do you know what they wanted to do? When they wanted to do Phil Long, we had a big meeting here, and there was a lot of people here. Tom was here that night. There were so many people that didn't want that Phil Long there, that they had to have the police up here. Because there was too many people here, and they were afraid that when we went out, that they were gonna say, well, planning and zoning let this go by. That was a vacant lot for years. It had nothing but trash on it. Look what they put on it.
Right.
Look what they put on it. They didn't go by they had to go by standards, and I could be wrong, but Tom will tell me, standards of Toyota. Toyota had their standards, and if they couldn't build there, they couldn't build the way Toyota wanted.
Now,
So it had to be Toyota.
would that have been allowed in New Orleans? No.
Well, what are you
But
gonna
we
do
are
with that
not in-
vacant lot?
We're not in New Orleans.
That's
We are not in
correct.
New
Trinidad
Orleans.
is unique by itself.
I know, and I agree with that.
I think we need to move forward.
We've gotten a lot of good feedback.
This has been incredible feedback. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I'm taking all of this in, especially since I'm a new person here.
It's okay.
Yeah.
This is how we grow.
But this is incredible feedback. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
I know it's not what you wanted to hear.
Oh, I really no, it's not. I didn't have any expectations because
Right.
I'm an architect. I'm used to proposing things and having them be ripped to shreds for whatever reason, whether it's financial, design-wise, whatever. This is completely commonplace for me, and I like welcome it.
And
so.
I think your ultimate goal, I see what you're trying to do, and I really think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So please don't think that. I just think there's a fine line between trying to accomplish what you're doing with saving these old buildings, I get it.
Yeah.
And this is an old community. So I tell people this all the time, and nobody believes me till this stuff hits the fan. There's 8,000 or so people that live here. There's about 300 to 400 new people. And the new people interact with the new people.
Right.
And they think like that, but they forget that there's 8,000 people that have been here for a long, long time.
Right.
And they vote.
Yeah.
And they have a say. They're just quieter. And you might not, they don't come into City Hall raising heck, right? They just go about their life, they run their business, they do their life.
Yeah.
Can't forget about those people.
We are not a big metropolitan area.
No, we're
Just
not.
because this is something that might be standard or something over there doesn't mean it works for the citizens of Trinidad.
Right, and I think just because if we're under an audit, let it audit. If they have been getting tax credits. Nothing has stopped anybody from doing it. I know, personally, I know.
Yeah.
So you can't use that threat that, oh, they're gonna take away our ability to get tax. That's not true. So I think there's gotta be a way to blend it and keep in mind
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Something else I'd like to let you know is whenever Mr. Yearman come in, he was met with just about this same type of it was a really tough job that he had.
Skepticism.
Yeah, it was a really tough job that he had because we worked very hard on our code just a few years ago, and we rewrote the whole thing. And for him to come in and talk about changing it, we were very, very standoffish at first. And he has gone from that point to being where he is and come up with some really great ideas that are going to benefit the city and has got a lot of support from us. So don't let this discourage you.
Yeah.
But what he brought forward was, I'm not here to change anything that you guys don't think need to be changed.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
That's
we
what
gotta
he
have,
came
we
up
got
with
work.
the first day that he came here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else, Chairman?
Well, we'll move on. Any reports, chairman's reports? Commissioner reports?
Well, you're the chairman.
I got nothing. I'm tired. I'm beat down.
Sound like me.
Seems like spring's here, huh? Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. It's air conditioning season. Here we
Yeah.
go.
There we go. Make a motion, we adjourn.
Planning director reports.
Oh, yeah.
You good?
Chris? No?
Smile. I got a motion to adjourn, man.
Okay. I'll second.
Second.
Oh, we had to vote though.
I thought we did.
I got one.